Get that nationalist garbage out of here, big dog. Name your son Mao. Okay? If you truly want Chinese prosperity to reign over you, okay? If you truly want to be awash in the bounty of Chinese prosperity, you better name your child Mao.
Wishing a good morning to Vietnam. With a slew of waves from his plane, a hard Vietnamese president on the tarmac, or to the crowds of children at a military parade in his honor, China's Xi Jinping kicked off a 2-day state visit to Vietnam. It's the first leg of his Southeast Asia tour.
I chose Vietnam as the first stop for my overseas visit this year. It shows that the Chinese government and the Communist Party greatly values China-Vietnam relations.
Western media loves to say that Xi is not responding because he needs to look strong. Sorry, but China is already strong. Xi isn't responding because no civilized nation should negotiate with terrorists. Top Xi is going to be really surprised when Xi does, as a matter of fact, indeed negotiate with terrorists. I'm telling you right now, maybe I'm wrong, but yes, of course Xi Jinping is going to inevitably come back to Donald Trump and negotiate with terrorists, because it is not in the interest of China, at least in this term, in this period, to completely destabilize global trade and then even make China the hegemonic power or make yuan the global reserve currency. So I do think that he will go back and offer something to Trump to make Trump feel like he's won. But in the interim, I think these actions show the rest of the world how dangerously unstable America has become and how it can no longer be the global leader of trade and the global leader in general, the hegemonic superpower in general. And you can't do something like that overnight. You have to, it takes time. You have to show the rest of the world, I think.
And we learn.
You have to show the rest of the world, especially xenophobic Western leaders, you have to make them believe that they came to this conclusion on their own. And the best way to do that is by showing how unstable and dangerous America truly is in a moment of their weakness.
And I went for a master's degree in communism, and we learned these things. I took, no, I'm not kidding. I took 7 courses in communism. Lenin, when he came in 1917, felt that the bankers were making too much money. He confiscated all their wealth. The peasantry felt terrific about it. The peasantry reacted
Harvard
positively.
Harvard had 7 courses in communism when you were an undergrad?
And then I took several at City College. And, you know, it traced out well, and the peasantry was rejoicing, and the bankers, many of them were killed, and there was a terrific surge of opinion that Lenin was a great man.
It didn't work out in the long run,
It didn't work out. Now, but, you know, it's very easy for me to come on. I could do that. I know that rap. I studied it. I know most of Lenin's speeches during the period, including What Is to Be Done, which I committed to memory in the first chapter. And it's really about stringing up guys like John Mack and then feeling great about it. And we studied it. It didn't work, okay? But it did happen, all right? Yeah. And it was really because the people in Main Street.
He was with Spartacus Youth at some point, never remember. That's what you want to... Yeah, no, never remember, sure.
People in Main Street were doing very poorly. As a matter of fact, the peasantry was doing really horrible. Of course, then Stalin annihilated the peasantry in the next act. But, you know, look, we played it out. And if people want to do it, that's fine. It didn't work. And I'm not being facetious. I mean, that's what we did in the Soviet Union. I mean, that's what I studied, and that's what I thought at the time when I was in Callow Youth was a good idea. Yeah. Because I felt that the disparities, and the fact that I was living in my car at the time, and the fact that I had no money.
Yeah, who's a trot?
It seemed justified. But you know what? Justification of what someone makes and someone doesn't shouldn't rest on the idea that I was living in my car, drinking too heavily, had an axe next to me, and I had a gun. I mean, it's not like why should I be making policy? What we want to do is we want to do the right thing. Yeah. And the right thing is that if you really think that they're paid too high, then raise their taxes. Okay, maybe put a windfall taxes. I'm against this. Yeah. But the idea that because someone's poor, I was poor, and I studied what Trotsky had to say, which, by the way, he would be in favor of the workers owning the production. And I studied Lenin, and, you know, I was very caught up in this notion that the peasantry should win. But, you know, the peasant just didn't work.
Speaking of the peasantry winning, let's give them some trades. What do you think?
Peasantry, it's like a sack of potatoes. Do a little ankles work here. And I'm not talking about money ankles. All right, I'm being serious. I mean, go read What Is to Be Done. He's got the handbook for all the people who are complaining. We can put it into place. We can. I wanted to. Yeah. I wanted to do for 10 years when I was poor. Yeah. Okay? It was a great satisfaction. All right.
You want to know what's ironic? He went through the motions as a self-interested man. Understandably had class consciousness as first a worker and then class consciousness as a capital owner. Like, he is, in a way, genuinely smarter than the average American, like significantly smarter than the average American. He went as a worker, had class consciousness, and became a capital owner and still maintained the class consciousness. It's just, you know, for the capital owning class now. That's it. No, he was never a Maoist like Van Jones. Van Jones is something different. Van Jones actually participated in radical action. Van Jones was straightforwardly a Maoist. That is very different than being a trot because you took courses in college and you thought, you know, permanent international revolution is going to happen or whatever. Yeah, Van Jones was a Vanguard Jones. Yeah. What is this? This is my favorite clip of someone studying Mao. Oh, gay Marxist Millie.
But I do think it's important, actually, for those of us in uniform to be open-minded and be widely read. And the United States Military Academy is a university. And it is important that we train and we understand. And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white. And I want to.
I love this clip, dude. Oh, my God. It was so good. It's so fucking good. I want to understand white rage, and I'm white.
Understand white rage, and I'm white. And I want to understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that?
Yeah.
I want to find that out.
Yeah. Have you guys thought about a revolutionary thinker? His name is Jay Sakai. I want to understand. I want to understand what leads the white proletariat to engage in acts of white rage. How did this happen? I want to study it, examine it.
I want to maintain an open mind here, and I do want to analyze it. It's important that we understand that.
Is he the liberal Hitler Brace is talking about? Yeah, exactly.
Because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians, they come from the American people. So it is important that the leaders, now and in the future, do understand it. I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what is wrong with understanding? Having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend.
You think Millie knows about settlers? 100%. Yes. He's not a brute, dude. Yes. He read it wrong. No, this isn't fake. This is a real thing. Yes, this is real. It happened. He said it. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staffs on critical race theory. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what is wrong with understanding the country which we are here to defend? He read the Red Book in Mandarin. He's a real one. Yeah, in the original. Yeah, conservatives, of course, lost their f***ing minds when he came out with that. They were like, this guy is gay. You know who's gay? A 4-star general, dude. Why is he gay? Because he reads. And he thinks it's important for the American military to also...
While the tour was likely planned before U.S. President Donald...
I read his dissertation. It was studying the IRA, Cuba, etc., and revolutionary theory in general. That's what he wrote his dissertation on like revolutionary guerrilla warfare. His thesis was titled "A Critical Analysis of Revolutionary Guerrilla Organization in Theory and Practice to Destroy People's Liberation Movements, not to help."
Donald Trump's tariff and trade war, analysts say it allows China to shore up alliances in the region, portraying itself as a stable ally while also diversifying exports routes. Xi is calling on Vietnam to join him in resisting Trump's unilateralism and protectionism.
In the face of the current changing and turbulent international situation, China and Vietnam will adhere to peace and development and deepen
the people's uncle
friendly cooperation, which brings precious stability and certainty to the world.
While Donald Trump has kept 145% tariffs in place for certain Chinese goods, he has issued a temporary reprieve of tariffs to Vietnam, Malaysia and Cambodia, the three nations on Xi Jinping's tour. While these visits do send a strong political message of the importance of its neighbours to Beijing, there are also potential sticking points to these attempts to stand united. Security and territorial disputes remain a concern for smaller regional powers, as do fears of cheaper Chinese goods flooding their markets or Chinese supply chains being diverted through their nations to buy.
My firstborn username is Chiang Kai-shek Good. Fuck no, bro. What are you talking about? This is the Chinese century of prosperity. Get that nationalist garbage out of here, big dog. Name your son Mao. Okay? If you truly want Chinese prosperity to reign over you, okay? If you truly want to be awash in the bounty of Chinese prosperity, you better name your fucking child Mao or LeBron, but Mao is good. Oh my God, we will be servile like the Albanian, okay? You know how like in Kosovo, they fucking named their children Tony Blair, or Bill Clinton? That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be naming our children Mao Zedong or fucking Xi Jinping. That's what we're going to be doing. That's crazy. Mao Zedong? Yes. Thank you, CCP. You are my best friend. You are the peacekeeper. You are the legend. Thank you, CCP. Workers' genocide. You are the peacekeeper. You are who we abide. This is it. It's CPC. Get it right. True. I apologize. Helping small Kosovo.
Bypass tariffs. Yet Beijing has nonetheless seized on the occasion of Trump's trade war to try and shore up support.
美方有关人士的言论充满了意识形态偏见和冷战思维，是彻头彻尾的谎言和谬论。是谁将拉美和加勒比视为后院，大搞新门罗主义？是谁对拉美和加勒比国家的内政指手画脚？是谁高举关税的大炮胁迫拉美和加勒比国家？是谁在全球监听监控？是谁军事基地遍布西半球？是谁放任轻小武器、
Who's letting small arms and light weapons and ammunition flow into Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace?
世人看得很清楚。
The world knows full well the answers to these questions.
中拉合作是南南合作。
China's cooperation with Latin America.
Oops,
sorry.
没有地缘算计。
China's cooperation with Latin American and Caribbean countries is South-South cooperation. It is always aimed at giving each other support and never driven by geopolitical calculations. China is committed to equality and mutual benefit in engaging in these countries and never seeks sphere of influence or targets any third party.
也不针对任何第三方。美方反复
The U.S. keeps vilifying China and peddling the so-called China threat in order to cook up
中国威胁论，不过是想以之为借口
a pretext to justify their action to control countries in this region, yet they will never succeed.
不会得逞。
Welcome back, and joining me now is Ray Dalio, the founder of the world's largest hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates. He is also the author of the new book, How Countries Go Broke. It's out in June. Mr. Dalio, welcome to Meet the Press.
Thank you. Good to be here. Just call me Ray.
Okay. Well, Ray, I'll take you up on that. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your perspective. As I just said, you did found the world's largest.
This has 2 million views in one day. You know what's really funny? No, you're saying shilling this trash. I don't even know what he's going to say. But half the time, these neoliberal demons have more coherent analysis about how China is dominating us, partially because they played a formative role in designing the global trade structure that allowed China to become a manufacturing hub for the world. So it's weird. We're still listening to billionaires. No, listen to me. Listen to what I have to say. It's kind of like listening to fucking Larold Summers, okay? As opposed to the average podcaster that's like fucking churning out idiotic takes about China. These guys sometimes are literally correct, even if it's like a Benny Morris phenomenon where it's like they're correct on the basics, they're correct on the fundamentals. They're just incorrect on the direction that we should be heading towards because they obviously want to maintain American hegemony. It's like when Michael Bloomberg came out and was like, China is great. Do you guys not remember that? When Michael Bloomberg was running for president in the fucking Democratic primaries and straight up Like, he was just like, China's awesome. You guys are fucking stupid. China is great. It's next up. And everyone was like, what? What are you saying? You're running for president. You can't say those things. And he was like, I don't give a shit. I'm a fucking billionaire.
Hedge fund. You have been in this field for more than 50 years. It's worth pointing out to our viewers. I think it's important to note you can.
Your moot is shitting on the goat. What is he saying? J.D. Vance called universities the enemy. Sound familiar? Mao Zedong said the same before purging scholars and attacking universities in the 60s. There was for a decade. Bro, I think, you know what the irony is? We're doing the reverse, where it's like a cultural revolution, but instead of stamping out reactionary forces, it quite literally, and by the way, there's much criticism to be had towards that sort of thing anyway, but it quite literally is stamping out revolutionary forces so that the only attitude that remains is reactionary. It's quite literally at the behest of counter-revolutionary thought. It's like making dudes, it's like locking up dudes into a room and being like, you need to write 1,000 words every day about why you hate woke. You need to, dear chairman, I found myself thinking that trans people were human today. I apologize for this. I apologize for this action. I have engaged in, once again, woke revolutionary thought. I know that the war I wage is within myself and with the revolutionary forces all around us. Yeah, the great trip backwards. They're doing anti-woke struggle sessions, dude. America's describing something bad in America. Imagine communist China. Yeah, we're doing struggle sessions and writing self-crit, but the self-crit is about having woke opinions. Deng's first proclamation was to denounce the Cultural Revolution. It was a tragic event from the top down. American hatred for education seems to be from the bottom up. A lot of angry white men who couldn't cut it want to burn it down. Listen, I'm not going to say nothing, okay? Sometimes you got to stamp out reactionary forces, all right? That's all I'm saying. And maybe doing it in a decentralized structure is seemingly one method.
Consider yourself to be apolitical, and you say that the tariff problem is a symptom of a much greater problem. What do you mean by that?
There's a financial problem. There's an imbalance problem. There are basically 5 big forces through history that drive everything. First, there's the money, credit, debt, economic cycle, in which there's a building up of debt in a cyclical way that becomes too large, and we're going to have problems. We're going to have a government debt problem. Maybe we can get into this. The second big force through time is the internal conflict force. The left and the right, differences in wealth and values causing a conflict that we're seeing it changing our political order. So the first is changing our monetary order. The second is changing our political order internally. And then the third is the great world order. How countries...
Liberals will do anything but examine history and contemporary society through a materialist lens, through the lens of dialectical materialism. They will tell you the most insane stories, okay? They'll be like, oh, class, working class versus capital owning class. How about middle class? How about generational socio-political differences? Let's talk about generations, boomers, millennials, zoomers, that sort of thing. Like, it's fine, man. You can... Just like a dietitian can base their diet off of calories in, calories out, you can have a whole bunch of different... The entire field of sociology is filled to the brim with adding stuff on top of what I'm referencing, as long as the fundamentals are still there. But these guys, no, it has to be spiritual. It has to be totally different, idealistic, spiritual. This is... The things that drive history forward is debt ownership.
Deal with each other when there's a rising power challenging an existing power. And now we are going from multilateralism, which is largely an American world order type of thing, to a unilateral world order in which there's great conflict. And the other two factors all through history have been acts of nature, droughts, floods, and...
Multilateralism, but America controlling it, versus unilateralism, which is not America controlling it.
Pandemics. And number 4 is technology changing. And how they are coming together are the main forces behind this. For example, there can't be imbalances anymore in that environment.
Do you think that President Trump's tariffs are exacerbating what you are describing, this complicated mix of challenges that the world is facing?
I think it's just a function of how well they're handled. You know, it's a reality that it's a desire to bring in tax revenue from that. It's a reality that we would like to build manufacturing and jobs here. This is a reality. That's how that's done, whether that's done in a practical way, whether that's done in a stable way, whether that's done with quality negotiations.
I mean, a guy like Ray Dalio also should believe that Donald Trump is in the right here, because Donald Trump's mechanism for how we're magically going to build up a manufacturing base is relying on the good nature of capital owners. Like, God forbid we do this through a command economy, central planning, massive amounts of public investment, massive amounts of public control, nationalization of sectors. What the fuck is this? No more gift subs, only fights. Give us our citrusy rights. Why are you... Did the offliners organize to be fucking annoying? Is that what's going on in the midst of me trying to talk about this shit? Go back to your fucking Discord, offliners.
In which that's a mutual problem, or whether that's done in a chaotic and disruptive way that produces great conflict, makes all the difference in the world.
Based on what you're seeing right now, do you think that these tariffs are being carried out in a practical way or a chaotic way?
I think we'll see. So far, very disruptive. So far, very disruptive, right? And so we don't know what the numbers are. But that could be part of a process, right? It depends where we are at the end of the 90 days. Because what was put there is like throwing rocks into the production system. And those impacts would be enormous in terms of the efficiency of the whole world. Great cost.
I want to ask you about...
Wow. Yeah, 90 days is all it'll take to build factories, I think. Yeah.
Something that's on a lot of people's minds, your predictions for the future. And I want to start with the R word. I know you think this is just a piece of it. Of course, I'm talking about a recession. Do you think it is likely that the United States will dip into a recession because of President Trump's tariffs?
I think that right now we are at a decision-making point and very close to a recession. And I'm worried about something worse than a recession if this isn't handled well. A recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP, and whether it goes slightly there, we always have those things. We have something that's much more profound. We have a breaking down of the monetary order. We are going to change the monetary order because we cannot spend the amounts of money, so we have that problem. And when we talk about the dollar and we talk about tariffs, we have that. We are having profound changes in our domestic order, how ruling is existing. And we're having profound changes in the world order, such like the 1930s. I've studied history, and this repeats over and over again. So if you take tariffs, if you take debt, if you take the rising power challenging the existing power, if you take those factors and look at the factors, those changes in the orders, the systems, are very, very disruptive. How that's handled could produce something that is much worse than a recession, or it could be handled well. Let's take the debt situation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, very quickly, because I want to be very specific about what you mean. You're saying worse than recession. You're saying this is reminiscent of the 1930s. We should tell our viewers you correctly predicted the 2008 financial crisis. What is your prediction?
Dog, it's guys like him that directly contributed to the Great Depression. It's like a fucking robber baron talking about how, not me, but some forces in our current existing structure are definitely causing too much financial instability. Not me, though. I would never do that. That's someone else that's doing it. And of course, given my class position, I can't tell you exactly who's responsible. Not me. And also, I can't really tell you how we will get out of this, but if we will get out of this, we could get out of this in some ways that will hopefully be beneficial for not me, but other guys like me.
For where the country is headed right now.
Right now, we're at a juncture. Let's take the budget. If the budget deficit can be reduced to 3% of GDP, it will be about 7% if things are not changed. If it could be reduced to about 3% of GDP, and these trade deficits and so on are managed in the right way, this could all be managed very well. I believe that members of Congress...
How? What do you mean by managing trade deficits? Like, what's the goal? Let's say we already have pre-existing, we have things that we manufacture, we have things that we produce, okay? Beyond fintech and other services that we provide to the rest of the globe, we do have certain things that we can sell to every country, right? Poultry, meat, things of that nature. Is that how we do it? Is that what we're going to do? Is that what we're going to do here? We're just going to force other countries to buy our poultry, buy our meat? Salmonella chicken for all?
Congress should take the pledge, what I call the 3% pledge, that in one way or another, that they will get that budget deficit down to that number. If they don't, we're going to have a supply-demand problem for debt at the same time as we have these other problems. And the results of that will be worse than a normal recession.
So, and just to follow up on that point, worse than a recession, you're talking about the 1930s. What specifically are you warning of? Are you saying that it could be as bad as a depression? What's your biggest fear?
The D word.
The value of money. What is a storehold of wealth? That is a bond. In other words,
3% of U.S. GDP would be $912 billion. The government currently spends trillions per year. Good luck. Yeah, that's also the other side of this, where it's like, we really got to cut back. We got to do austerity for the poor. How about we do austerity for you? See, this is what I mean. You hear a billionaire. Okay, what's Ray Dalio's net worth? Let's see. Oh, look at that. 14 billion USD. Okay. See, this is the type of shit that would never happen in China. Imagine a Chinese billionaire being like, the Chinese population, the Communist Party of China is doing far too much for uplifting the working class. We have to tell the working class that a period of austerity is an absolute necessity. Not me, though. I'll be fine. But everybody else, you have to do austerity. We have to cut back on, I don't know, development projects. That fucking that fucking bridge that you built, that's like 8 times higher than the Golden Gate Bridge. Unnecessary. No need for that. Commerce can flow without that bridge. Why are we even building that? What do you think happens in that situation? He's disappeared overnight, okay? He's disappeared overnight. His assets liquidated. His assets taken over, seized by the government. This guy's over here on MSNBC being like, the problems that people like myself caused, you know, we have to deal with that by doing what? Oh, cutting back on government expenditures. Where can we cut? Not on the military budget, of course. We would never be able to do that. That's crazy. That's what allows us to be the dominant global superpower. Where should we cut the budgets on? Social Security and Medicare. Pentagon budget cresting over $1 trillion without even discussing veterans benefits or law enforcement / intelligence costs. U.S. empire is exploding without even bother justifying it. Without ever bother.
One man's debt is another man's assets, bondholders. And so we're going to be in a situation where if that storehold of wealth is in jeopardy because there's too much supply and demand and so on, and we have a monetary inflation, disruptions, and that could be like the breakdown of the monetary system in 71. It could be like 2008. It's going to be very severe. I think it could be more severe than those if these other matters simultaneously occur. Imagine if we have a downturn politically and an international conflict.
What's worst case scenario that you're warning of? To be very specific, to be very
specific, the value of
You were so wrong about the reason why Jack Ma is banned. He's not even banned. What do you mean? He's around now.
Internal conflict that is not the normal democracy as we know it, and international conflict in a way that is highly disruptive to the world economy and could even be a military conflict. just as these breakdowns have occurred before. You know, we have a new order that began in 1945, a new monetary order and a new geopolitical order. And these go in cycles that can be measured. And I worry about the breakdown of that kind of an order, particularly since it doesn't need to happen, because there are certain things that could be done in which this is better, a better restructuring of these debts and actions taken.
So that takes me to my next question. You have this book, How Countries Go Broke, The Big Cycle. What is the solution here?
Well, there are a series of solutions, but let's take the most important.
And we have 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay. 3% of GDP, bring that deficit down. It can be done in a bipartisan way, the way it was done between 1991 and 98. I explained how that could be done, doing things together for the greater good. And
dude, welfare reform, dude, austerity. That's how we do it. Yeah, obviously, fuck the working poor. That's amazing. No, that's certainly going to fix the problem.
Then internationally on all of these issues to use American strength, but to negotiate well, to lay out ways in which bad conflict and inefficient policies don't create great disruptions, but get us through this in an orderly way.
All right, Ray Dalio, thank you.
Yeah, for the greater good. If we melt the working poor for the greater good, it'll be good.